Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Conscious Leader podcast, where I, your host, Delisa Abraham from Faith and Sparkles World, where I introduce conscious leaders in their industry. They are making a difference, impacting lives, getting the results that you need. That I will need, and what our world needs as well. And this is what they do every day. So join me in welcoming my guest today, ShaQuinnsha Paris, who is going to chat with us about mental health. Welcome, ShaQuinnsha. Yay!
Hi, Delisa. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. So, we're just going to get right into it. Please share with everyone who you are, who you serve, and what's the impact that your business has on others and in the world.
Fantastic. So, I'm ShaQuinnsha Paris. I'm a speaker, author, and the founder of Love and Fine Works, and we're really dedicated to helping companies advance mental health initiatives in the workplace. And so, I'm really working with managers to help them have a better understanding around mental health so that they can become better communicators and really create a more positive work environment for employees who are suffering with mental illness in the workplace. And I think the work that I'm doing is really going to help to change the culture of the places that we work in and really to empower individuals who feel like they don't have quite what they need in terms of mental health support in the workplace and really help them become more productive and feel more included in the different workspaces.
Awesome. And that is so important right now in the time that we live in where mental health is really being highlighted, spotlighted, and addressed. But it is a process. It doesn't just happen beforehand. Before I even get into any of my questions, I want to share, and I think you may know this one. There's this book called The Art of War for Managers. Now, if anyone's been in the military or anyone doing leadership, this book, The Art of War, is a book that you have to read. It's one of the books that's on there, and you study it and you go through it. But exactly what you were saying about who you serve in terms of managers, this book, The Art of War for Managers, really gets into depth. And they talk about the different layers of managers and their role. So, like the frontline workers, the middle management, the upper management. Where is your focus?
So my focus really is at the frontline level.
Mm.
Now, I do believe that what I provide really can be applied to all levels because if we really think about it, our leaders at those top levels, at those C suites, you know,
Mhm.
they deal with a lot. And so mental health, we just kind of think of them as just super beings, but mental health affects them as well. But I initially, my focus is really at the front line because those managers are really in it with the employees. They're face to face, and so I really want to empower those managers to be able to better understand and really communicate with their employees, just so everybody there's just a more positive setting all around.
Okay, yeah. And that's really important. I remember many, many, many moons ago when I worked at a coffee shop, when you're first getting your first job. I actually worked when I was 16. I worked at an amusement park. And I'm sharing this because I really want to highlight the importance of what you do, especially for the frontline managers. Um, and when I was there, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, young girl. I was just happy to have a job. The pay was crap. This is when you're like getting maybe like $5 or something like that an hour if you were lucky. But
Fantastic.
you know, but what I found was I had a manager who was like I think he was in university at this time at the amusement park. And he wanted me to work the night shift, the late shift, later on in the evening. So the park closed at like 11 or 10 or something. And So, and I was taking transit at the time, and I remember my mom came to pick me up, and I came out of there at like almost 1 o'clock in the morning because it was a busy day and they had a special event. And she was like, "You are never working night shift again." And I'm here defending my manager saying, "No, mom, like you don't understand. It was so busy. Everyone's working hard." But this is where that whole mental health and the advocacy and like what you're doing makes sense because he was pissed off because my mom picked up the phone, and said, no young woman should be leaving a work at 1 o'clock in the morning. This was different times. I know now it's different. She's like, why am I waiting in the parking lot? Not only me, but other parents. This is ridiculous. You need to sort yourself out. And he was so pissed off he couldn't handle it. Either way, there was a turnover and he ended up leaving the position because of the stress of dealing with young new teenagers,
Mhm.
scheduling them, working with them, and just not having he wasn't equipped essentially to deal with this position. And so this is why what you are doing is so important. Please share your experience in HR as you were in HR for so long. How do you or how are companies thinking when they are hiring managers or supervisors that are on the front lines who are either dealing with um, new immigrants, teenagers? Like, first of all, how do you how like what are they thinking? What is that process? And then the second step is how can what you do be applied so that everyone is in a good mental space and they can actually handle the job that they're doing?
So I think what they're thinking is when they're hiring these managers, or do they have certain skill sets? What are they able to not necessarily lead, but are they able to manage? Because I think we have a shortage of leaders,
Yes.
and I think we look at um, qualifications on paper, but companies really fail to look at the soft skills when
Mhm.
it comes to managers sometimes. And I think that's why what I offer in manager training is really to help the companies really prepare the managers for immigrants coming in, for Americans, because I'm in the U.S. So for Americans coming into these companies that have mental health issues, about 83% of employees said that it's really important that their company have trained their managers on how to deal with mental health. And I think a lot of companies don't understand the numbers around mental health. And so, specifically, I work with social anxiety and workplace anxiety. And anxiety is the number one mental illness in the US. And I think knowing that a lot of companies can then train their managers, these new managers coming in, as soon as they come in and you're getting them onboarding, make that a part of onboarding,
Mhm.
getting them trained up and knowledgeable, and helping them become aware of how to deal with certain issues. The older managers that are already in place, give them the training so that they too can recognize certain signs and be able to have conversations with employees. So I think that's the key. When they're hiring new managers, they're not so much as thinking about the mental health impact. It's really how can they help the business really excel.
And so this is why, like, what you do, and you're working with companies. It could be mid-sized to, I'm assuming, mid-sized businesses that may have franchise, perhaps. These are some of the people that you may work with, or um, smaller businesses that do have a lot more employees, and so they hire these either day managers or evening night managers. Um, this is where that training, when managers are getting their quarterly training, this is where you come in. correct?
Yeah, so it's that quarterly training, and like I said, when you have those new hires, those new managers coming in, go ahead and get that training up front. So get that embedded in the culture, and so as soon as they come in, they know this is how the company operates, and so they follow suit.
I like that. I really like that. It's saying, let's get it right, nip it in the butt right away. This
Right.
is the expectation, and let's move from there. If there's an issue, we have remedial training that is available. I enjoy what you're doing. Now, in universities, and I know you work with companies, universities are in a special time right now where they are seeing a lot of fluctuations. A lot of people either they're dropping out, they're doing these things. But then for those technical trains, like the engineers and the doctors and the lawyers, these trades accountants who are going into interning in these companies, would you say that what you do and how you really focus on that, they may not be management, but would you be able to work with these new interns coming in to help them with that social anxiety and essentially prepare them to become managers in these businesses? Because essentially, if I'm like a big corporations, and I've worked with one, you've worked with them, they're hiring you, they expect longevity. They're not thinking you're going to be there for 3 months, right? More like 30 years if possible. And then essentially, they already kind of have a plan for you to be at a particular level. Would your training benefit these new hires coming out from the internship, coming into an internship position in these companies? And if so, how and why is that important?
Absolutely. If they're aspiring to, become managers and leaders, I think it would absolutely benefit them to have that training early, and so that way they can already have that skill set. And so when they move up in the company, they can already be able to provide that type of support to their teams. And and as far as the answer, I think it's very, like I said, I think they could truly benefit from that. But I want to take a step back and say the reason that I do focus on the managers is because they lead the team.
Yeah.
And so it's really up to them to create the environment that makes
Mhm.
their team successful. Because if you have a successful team, of course, that's going to help with productivity, going to help with employee engagement. It's going to reduce absence, a number of things. Employee well being is important. And so that's why I focus on working with the managers, because sometimes employees they might not even know that they're struggling with mental
Mm,
illness or with their mental health. And I say that in my own personal experience, because for a long time I really didn't know what I was struggling with and why I was having problems advancing in my career. It was later, that I understood, okay, I'm struggling with the mental illness, and that's the reason why. But I think what I provide helps managers to recognize, even if employees don't. Okay, these are some signs. And so now that I know that, this is how I can better support them. And in
mhm.
supporting them this way, this just makes it a better, inclusive environment, and they can be more successful in their role.
Awesome. Yeah, no, that's I really like that. And thank you so much for sharing this with us today, because your well-being really and truly transforms not only you as a person, but it affects the whole. It affects your family, it affects your colleagues, your coworkers, it affects you, right? Because there are some people right now, their depression is so high, anxiety is so high. All of these things are, it's plaguing us so much more, ever so much more. And having the support, and I don't necessarily mean getting the medication support for it. Although if it's needed, then yes.
Definitely.
If you need it, yes, it's there. but also really working on the mental aspect and getting to the root of the anxiety. And really, based on what you're saying, my understanding is as you get to the root, now you are finding ways to release the tension and or learn certain skills, techniques to overcome it. So please share with us, you know, what service you offer. Like, I have a business and I'm hiring 5 managers for 5 different departments. How can
Yes.
you help me?
The service that I provide really depends on the company. So some companies kind of want something that's very high level. Other companies want something that goes a little bit deeper. So I offer workshops, seminars. I, I offer assessments. I'm working on a new pilot program, an online course that focuses on a 3-step framework, and it really helps managers to gain awareness and to gain knowledge, and it looks at employee well-being and productivity among some other things, so that these managers are really equipped to lead. And I keep going back to that because it's important that we not manage but that we lead, our employees. And so if they can do that, then that really creates that more inclusive, more positive environment. And with everything that people are going through right now, you mentioned how high anxiety and depression is. All of us probably know at least one person in our lives that's struggling with mental illness. And so I think, the different services that I offer, however your company wants to do that, whether it's a seminar, whether it's the online course, it's really going to empower your managers to be able to lead with empathy and to become more effective at communication.
That's so, um, I like that. I know I'm saying I like that a lot because I actually do like that. For those that are on the fence, that are saying, yeah, this is great. I already have, we have a psychologist that they can go to. We have all of these things that are implemented uh, to support our frontline managers and everyone else. What would you say to that?
I would say that that's great. And a lot of companies have, over the last couple of years, really invested in mental health from an individual perspective.
Mhm.
But I think employees are feeling like there needs to be more. Let me see what you want to do, how much you value me as an employee, and that includes my mental health. I think companies don't realize that not addressing mental health in the workplace is costing them billions, and I don't think they even realize the return of
Mhm.
investing in mental health. So who did a great study, and they said that for every dollar that is invested in mental health, that the company receives $4 back in productivity and improved health. And so when your employees are happy, they're more productive, and that contributes to the company more. And also, I want to touch on just a generation. So, Generation Z is coming
Mhm.
in, and that generation truly values mental health. It is something that is very important to them when they're seeking job opportunities. And so it's really becoming mandatory that companies implement mental health programs within their companies, because this is what young people are looking at, and this is what they want when they're making decisions on who they want to work for.
Awesome. I am mentioning the financial results that come from participating in your training and having you on as a workshop. A lot of business owners are going to start thinking, hey, whoa, if $1 spent equals a $4 return, that's that's a huge investment,
Yeah.
right? Like that's a high return. You
Yes.
don't I mean, you could go on the stock market and you're not even guaranteed to get that. So there is no guarantee. So just really, even with that study, let's talk about the financial aspect as well, not only for the business as a whole. And when I say financial, I don't only mean the money because you already talked about that.
Mhm.
But when I say the financial aspect, I'm talking about that internal finance that a manager receives when they're trained up and their team is primed, they're energized, everyone is in harmony. What does that look like for that specific manager? What have you not only planned and prepared them for, but then what are the results for them as well?
Yeah. So they're looking at increased productivity. They're looking at increased engagement. They're looking at a reduction in absenteeism. They're looking at a more cohesive group of individuals. They're looking at being able to retain more of their employees. They're looking at employees who are better developed. They are looking at a team that they can easily look at and say, these people are ready to go to this next level. But because they've been developed so well, and because that manager has that internal finance, like you said, so that they've been trained up, they've been able to support their staff and develop them, and so that person can easily grow and move on to other things in the company, and so they just have a healthy team, and so all around, it's a benefit to the manager, and it's a benefit to the employee.
Hmm. And it's just building them up and preparing them um, for the, that end of year and their personal growth as well.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, because we need that personal growth and we need that team growth to help us know what our next steps are. And essentially, what you're doing, based on my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, is preparing managers, these frontline managers, for the leadership position, even though they are leaders in their own right where they are, but for a more advanced role in leadership. Am I correct in that statement?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing, and I'm helping them to um, be better equipped to manage issues that come up. As you progress in your development in different levels of your career, that's a skill that you're going to always need. And so, yeah, what I'm providing definitely is giving them that skill and preparing them to be successful in their future career.
All right. Well, before we wrap up, there are two questions, but the first question I'm going to ask you is why now? Why did you decide to say, you know what, it's time for me to leave my role in HR, in corporate, in industry, venture out as an entrepreneur? Why now?
If not now, then when? Uh,
Yeah.
if I don't do it, who will? I looked at it just with COVID, and all the mental stress
Mhm.
that COVID brought and how it affected a number of people's, mental health. It just got me to thinking about mental health in the workplace and my personal struggle. And I thought, in life you experience things, you have to deal with certain things, and it sets you up, for a number of things. And I believe that the things that I've experienced in my personal life and in my career have really set me up for this moment to be able to use my knowledge and my expertise to really help others to really deal with their struggles around mental health.
Awesome. What are your final words to anyone who is listening, those that are maybe managers, maybe they're entrepreneurs and they have a small team, a small support system. What is your final thoughts?
When it comes to mental health, we have to be the change. We have to work to create awareness and reduce the stigma around mental health. So instead of judging our peers and our colleagues, let's try to gain understanding and let's try to be more supportive.
Mhm. How can we get in contact with you, Shaqui Shay? Sequin Shay?
Sure. You can follow me on Instagram under ShaQuinnsha. Love and Fine Works on Instagram as well. You can follow me on Facebook under Love and Fine Works. Also LinkedIn under ShaQuinnsha Paris.
Well, thank you. I will be following along on your journey. Thank you so much for being here. For all those who are listening and has tuned in, I truly believe that the information, right, that was shared today, it will benefit you. It will benefit your team. It will benefit your home. Use it. Follow Shakunshe. Ask her questions. Comment on her post if you're unsure of something, or maybe you are sure of something and you tested it and you're like, hey, Shaquinche, you know what? I followed your example here, but I'm not seeing the results. What do you mean? Right? She is there to support you on this journey. She has a wealth of experience, education, and knowledge. So put it to use. Thank you all for being here. Have a wonderful week ahead, and I look forward to seeing you for my next podcast. Bye.
Thank you.